How does the most talked about team in the nation fly completely under the radar? The 2024 Colorado Buffaloes are a legit contender hiding in plain sight. While last season's team struggled with their depth, chemistry, and coaching, the staff went out and addressed all of these weaknesses and more. See, the media agrees with me. Now before I show you exactly what those people haven't taken the time to research, let's talk about what went wrong in 2023. It gets widely overlooked that Coach Prime inherited a 1-11 team from 2022 that averaged just 15 points while allowing 44, a 29-point average loss. When he came in, it was clear that the current roster and staff that led to one of the worst teams in history would not be sufficient. He didn't just make that Louis luggage speech for fun, it was needed. Since Prime joined CU in December 2022, there was little to no time to scout and recruit, as the high school signing day was just 15 days away and the portal had already opened. The staff quickly added 86 transfers, mostly from small schools or bigger schools where players struggled for playing time. Only 7 players had proven themselves at the Power 5 level. I'll compare the drastic differences of incoming players in 2024 in a second, but here's how the strategy last season played out. In 2023, Colorado started 3-0, generating immense national hype, but ended the season losing 8 of 9 games, bringing their record to an unimpressive 4-8. A big reason why so many people are overlooking them now. With context, however, it was a big improvement from 2022. They lost 5 games by 1 possession, with the 10th hardest strength of schedule in the country. The team's limited success was fueled by standout performances from players like Travis Hunter, Shedeur Sanders, and Shilo Sanders, all of which returned to the team this year. But their defense ranked 124th out of 133, and their offense just 60th in the nation, a very poor number considering their talent at quarterback and wide receiver. The trenches were the clear weakness, as last season their offensive line allowed 56 sacks, and the offense had just 69 rushing yards per game, the worst out of all 133 FBS teams. The defensive line also struggled, as CU gave up 176 rushing yards per game, largely due to linemen giving up huge gaps, and were unable to consistently get pressure, contributing just 17.5 sacks. The first thing CU's recruiting staff did this offseason was address the trenches. Now, with time to actually scout and recruit proven players that fit their needs, they brought in 10 new offensive linemen, many of which were big-time contributors at their last FBS schools. Khalil Benson, Justin Mayers, Tyler Johnson, Yakiri Walker, Jordan Seaton, and Tyler Brown are the most notable new players that I expect to rejuvenate this offensive line. Hank Zilinskas, who played in 2 games as a true freshman, will start week 1. For more depth, the staff also added 2 4-stars from 2023 in Zach Owens and Peyton Kirkland, and 3 more experienced players, Wyatt Hummel, Phillip Houston, and Cardell Thomas. In December, Coach Prime added Phil Loldholt as the offensive line coach. He was an O-line analyst, had a 6-year NFL career, and at one point was the highest paid tackle in the NFL. While he may be an unproven coach as of now, the program has raved about him so far. The defensive line was flooded even heavier with proven talent. BJ Green, Dayon Hayes, Samuel Okunlola, Chidozie Nwankwo, Rayan Buell, and Torian Carter all very proven at the FBS level, with 5 of them being dominant at their last schools. There will be at least 4 NFL players out of this group. CU also returns 2 of their most impactful D linemen from 2023 in Shane Cokes and Amari McNeil. I expect even better years from both of them with less double teams and better coaching. 2 more returning players are Tajay McCoy and Arden Walker, and while they don't have many stats yet to prove their play, watch out for them. For more proven or high upside depth, they also added these 6 players this offseason. The D-line staff is just as loaded with talent, with Vincent Dancy, Damian Lewis, and of course Warren Sapp. Each of these coaches brings a different expertise, and I think they will pay dividends. The trenches now have great coaching, size, experience, and talent. While the upgrades inside will likely play the biggest part in the Buffs reaching their lofty goals, every single position group on this team has been upgraded. The difference in player quality between this offseason and 2023 is night and day. Last year, only 7 out of 86 players brought in had proven themselves at the Power 5 level, and only 1 of them was dominant at his last stop. 9 more played well at the Group of 5 or FCS level, and 6 out of the 7 that were dominant are still a part of this team. I could only point out 1 transfer who was unproven but had obvious potential. Fast forward to this offseason. The staff has brought in 11 experienced Power 5 players, with 6 of them dominating at their previous schools. They also added 11 players who proved themselves at the Group of 5 or FCS level, 6 who excelled, and another 9 who showed a noticeably high potential. The linebackers were seen as another weakness last season, and while a big part of their struggles were due to the defensive line, the unit got a boost of depth and talent with 3 more proven players transferring in. They also returned starting linebacker Levante Bentley, who was a standout in the second half of last season, and Trevor Woods, who transitioned from safety and put on 20 plus pounds this offseason. 4 talented running backs were added to the room, with the most proven being Dallan Hayden, who ran for 550 yards as a true freshman at Ohio State in 2022. Isaiah Augustave, a top 15 running back in the 2023 recruiting class, played extensively in just 2 games, but totaled 181 yards and a touchdown on over 6 yards per carry, one against 9th-ranked Mizzou. The secondary is where things get fun. It wasn't even thought of as a weakness, but the Buffs still heavily upgraded their talent. They returned their 2 star safeties, Shilo Sanders and Cameron Silman-Craig, and brought in more young depth behind them. The 2-way star and likely top NFL draft pick Travis Hunter also returns. And they added 3 more highly regarded cornerbacks in Preston Hodge, DJ McKinney, and Colton Hood. Carter Stoutmire will play a big role too. Wide receiver was widely considered the most talented group on the 2023 team, but it doesn't even compare to this year's room. Travis Hunter, Jimmy Horn, and Amarian Miller return, and they added 2 proven stars whose skill sets perfectly complement this team in LaJohntay Wester and Will Shepherd. I won't even get into the elite young talent that's behind them on the depth chart. There will be NFL players all over the field, and yes, 40 new players is a lot, and we saw the lack of chemistry with last year's team, but going into this season, there's actually stability. Players like Shedeur and Shilo Sanders, Travis Hunter, Trevor Woods, and Shane Cokes are all some of the leaders who have helped establish the character and culture of this team, which makes it much easier for new players to buy into. Coach Prime also implemented a simple rule: no phones while eating in the cafeteria. This, along with the shared mentality among the players to win and execute, has fostered a very strong bond this offseason. This year's team is much more of a family, and they have a lot more fight in them too. Last season, Shedeur was practically the only one standing up for himself and others, which is insane as a star quarterback. Now, they've finally added legitimate dogs. These types of things will not happen again. Coach Prime has also made significant changes to his coaching staff, learning from last season's issues. In 2023, defensive coordinator Charles Kelly's complex scheme was too difficult to implement, especially with new players and a staff still learning it. This led to miscommunications and a ton of blown coverages. Livingston has tailored his scheme to Colorado's strengths, and it's allowed Colorado players to play fast and trust their instincts. The influx of talent and this player-centric approach will make the defense unrecognizable from last season. On the offensive side, last year was also a learning moment for Coach Prime. Although Sean Lewis was a proven head coach, his scheme didn't align with Shedeur or the team's strengths. While many doubt him, new coordinator Pat Shurmur's extensive experience and the chemistry between him and Shedeur will be a huge upgrade. If the offensive line can open up running lanes and provide just average pass protection, one of the top offenses in the country is very possible for the Buffs. As for the schedule, while there are many games that may look like toss-ups right now, if the Buffs become the team that they can, this schedule is very manageable. Matchups will likely get harder as the season goes on, which could benefit CU, particularly on the offensive line, and their bye weeks are placed very conveniently. As of now, there isn't a ranked team until week 7, where a bye week is placed before a huge game against Kansas State in Boulder. The second bye could be perfect timing for the Buffs to rest up before they have a tough 4 games to finish the season. There is a huge disparity between the internal and external expectations for this team. Everyone inside the program is expecting a special year, but the media outside and even Vegas have a different read. They were picked to finish 11th in the Big 12 poll, their win total is just 5.5, and CU has incredibly high odds to win the Big 12 and to make the playoffs. Vegas thinks it's practically impossible for them to win the national championship. And while I'm not going to sit here and say they will definitely be able to compete with teams like Georgia, Oregon, and Ohio State, I don't think it's as unrealistic as Vegas says. Coach Prime and his staff have kept many notable players from last season, heavily focused on and improved the weak points of the roster, and added significantly more top-level talent, along with a ton of experienced and high potential depth. There are still question marks, but this team looks significantly improved and ready to contend for a conference title and a playoff berth. I believe this is a 9 or 10 win team, and they could exceed even those expectations. At the end of the season, don't be surprised if Colorado has one or even multiple Heisman finalists in New York.